Take it off. Take my coat. Put it on. Now. Ethan Cole ripped his dead mother's jacket off his own back and wrapped it around a girl he'd never spoken to. A girl turning blue in a school parking lot where a rich kid had dumped her like garbage in a blizzard. He didn't know her father commanded 50 Hell's Angels. Didn't know that jacket would change his name, his blood, his entire life. He just knew she was dying and he had one coat, and the math was simple. He gave her everything. Then he walked into the storm with nothing and collapsed in an alley, alone, half dead, covered in snow like a boy the world had already buried. If this story moves you, hit subscribe right now and stay with me to the very end. Drop your city in the comments. I want to see just how far this story reaches. Now let me tell you how it all started. The dismissal bell at Pinewood High School rang at exactly 3:15, and Ethan Cole was already moving. Not running. Running attracted attention. Just flowing, slipping between bodies, keeping his head down, his blonde hair falling into his eyes like a curtain he'd learned to hide behind. 16 years old. Invisible by choice. Invisible by necessity. Behind him, Chad Morrison's voice cut through the hallway like a blade. "Yo, Sparrow, you flying south for the winter? Because you smell like you've been sleeping in a dumpster again." Laughter. Always laughter. Chad's crew, 4 football players built like refrigerators, blocked the hallway intersection, forcing smaller kids to squeeze past them. Chad stood in the center, Letterman jacket pristine, his daddy's 3rd BMW keychain dangling from his fingers like a trophy. Ethan didn't react, didn't flinch, didn't even change his pace. He'd learned a long time ago that reacting was fuel. And Chad Morrison ran on premium. "Hey, I'm talking to you, street rat." A wadded-up paper ball hit the back of Ethan's head. More laughter. A teacher walked past. Mrs. Langley. She saw everything. She kept walking. That was Pinewood High. The rich kids owned the hallways, and the teachers paid rent on their silence. Ethan turned the corner, made it to the side exit, pushed through the door into cold that hit his lungs like a fist. The sky was the color of a bruise, dark purple pressing down on a town that was about to get buried. The Weather Service had issued a blizzard warning 2 hours ago. Arctic front, 2 feet of snow, temperatures dropping to -15 by nightfall. He pulled his jacket tighter, his mother's jacket, the one she'd bought 3 sizes too big from the Goodwill during her last good month, when the cancer had retreated just enough to let her pretend she'd beat it. She'd patched the elbows herself, mismatched flannel, one red plaid, one blue, stitched a torn pocket shut with dental floss because they couldn't afford thread. The zipper stuck halfway up, so Ethan had to yank it past the broken teeth every single time. It was ugly, it was falling apart, and it was the only thing in the world that still loved him back. His mother, Catherine Cole, had died 14 months ago, pancreatic cancer, fast and cruel. She'd been a waitress at Sal's Diner, double shifts, triple when the bills piled up, never complained, never let Ethan see her cry, even at the end when the morphine wasn't enough and her body was eating itself alive. The last night she grabbed his hand with fingers so thin he could feel every bone. "Baby, promise me something. Promise me you'll be kind, even when the world isn't, especially when the world isn't. That's the only inheritance I've got." He'd promised, sobbing, 16 years old and making a deathbed promise he didn't fully understand yet. 3 months after the funeral, his stepfather, a man named Dale, who'd tolerated Ethan the way you tolerate a neighbor's dog, packed Ethan's stuff in a garbage bag and set it on the porch. No conversation, no explanation, just a deadbolt turning and a muffled, "Good luck, kid," through the door. So now Ethan lived in the back office of an abandoned auto repair shop on the east side of Pinewood. A couch that smelled like motor oil and regret. A sleeping bag he'd pulled from a donation bin. A life measured in free school lunches and under-the-table dishwashing wages at Sal's Diner, where his mother had once worked, and where the owner, Sal Russo, paid him cash and didn't ask questions he didn't want answered. Nobody knew. That was the point. Ethan reached the guidance counselor's office and almost walked past when Mr. Hargrove stepped out. Ethan Cole? Ethan's stomach dropped. Adults who knew your name meant trouble. Social workers, foster care, group homes where kids harder than him would eat him alive. Relax, Hargrove said. Your boss called. Pipes burst at Sal's. No work tonight or tomorrow. Did he say when? He said he'd call when they fix it. Could be a week. A week. No work for a week. Ethan did the math instantly, the way he always did, the way poverty forced you to turn your brain into a calculator that never stopped running. He had $11 in his pocket. That was maybe 4 packs of ramen. Electric bill at the shop was past due. If they cut power, he'd lose the space heater, the only thing between him and freezing to death in his sleep. You okay, son? Fine, thanks, Mr. Hargrove. He walked away before the counselor could see his hands shaking. Not from the cold, from the math. The math never worked. You could add the numbers 1,000 different ways, and they always came up short. Ethan pushed through the front doors and started the long walk east, 5 miles to the shop, in a blizzard, with no work waiting and $11 to his name. Behind him, he didn't notice the girl on the front steps. Lily Graves stood with her phone pressed to her ear, her cheerleading uniform offering about as much protection from the cold as tissue paper. She'd been calling the prospect, the Hells Angels recruit assigned to pick her up from the gas station 2 blocks from school, for 10 minutes. Straight to voicemail. Every time. Come on, come on, come on. Voicemail again. Lily bit her lip and made a decision she'd regret. She texted her father. Ride's late, getting another way home. Don't worry. She sent it fast before she could think about it, because if she thought about it, she'd remember what her father always said. You call me first, not second, not after. First. I don't care if it's 3 in the morning and you're standing in the middle of a church. You call me. But calling her father meant 50 Hells Angels descending on Pinewood High. Meant her cover blown. Meant goodbye to normal, to cheer practice in Friday night football, and being just Lily instead of Gravedigger's daughter. She'd been lying to Roman Gravedigger Graves for 2 years. Lying about how normal school was. Lying about how the kids treated her. Lying about the fact that normal was something she'd been faking so hard she'd forgotten what real felt like. Her father ran the Montana chapter of the Hells Angels. His word was law in 4 states. Men twice his size crossed the street when they saw him coming. He'd done time, assault, weapons charges, things Lily never asked about and he never volunteered. He had tattoos crawling up his neck like vines, a shaved head that gleamed under any light, and hands that could crush a beer can or cradle a baby with equal ease. He was terrifying. He was also the man who'd braided her hair every morning until she was 12, who read her Harry Potter with different voices for every character, who cried, actually cried, at her middle school graduation. Roman Graves had one weakness, and she was standing on the school steps in a cheerleading skirt during a blizzard. Hey, Lily! Chad Morrison's BMW pulled up to the curb, window down, smile on. The smile that made half the girls at Pinewood lose their minds. Lily had never trusted it. Something about the way it never reached his eyes. Need a ride? Storm's about to get nasty. I'm fine. My ride's coming. Your ride's not here. I am. Come on. It's freezing. She hesitated. The wind cut through her uniform like it wasn't there. Her fingers were already numb. The prospect still wasn't answering. Just to the gas station on 4th. That's it. Sure, hop in. She got in the car. Warm air hit her skin like a gift. Heated seats. That new car smell that rich kids took for granted. For 30 seconds it felt like a good decision. Then Chad turned left instead of right. Gas station's the other way, Lily said. Shortcut. There's no shortcut through the overflow lot, Chad. He didn't answer, just kept driving. Past the main building, past the gym, toward the back lot. The overflow parking area that was empty on Fridays, especially during a blizzard. No cars, no cameras, no witnesses. Lily's hand moved to the door handle. Her father's voice echoed in her head, the lessons he drilled into her since she was old enough to understand. Read the room. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it is wrong. Don't wait. Don't hope. Act. Chad, take me to the gas station, now. Relax. He parked, killed the engine, turned to her with that smile. Just wanted to talk about homecoming. I already said no. You said no in front of the whole cafeteria. Do you know how that made me look? That's not my problem. See, that's where you're wrong. His hand landed on her knee, heavy, deliberate. Everything at this school is my problem. My dad donates more to this place than the state does. I say jump. Teachers ask how high. I say someone's popular. They're popular. I say someone's invisible. He squeezed. They disappear. Lily's phone was in her right hand. One text to her father. 3 words. That's all it would take. Dad, school, now. And 50 Hell's Angels would turn this parking lot into a war zone. She almost did it, but Chad grabbed the phone first. Quick, athlete's reflexes. Ripped it from her hand and threw it out the window. It vanished into a snowdrift. Chad, what the hell? Your purse, too. He grabbed it. Keys, wallet, everything. Out the window, scattered across the lot like confetti. You embarrassed me, he said, his voice calm now, almost pleasant, which made it so much worse. In front of everyone. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit here and think about that while I drive home. He reached across her and opened the passenger door. The cold rushed in like a living thing. Get out. It's a blizzard. I'm wearing a cheer uniform. Should have thought about that before you embarrassed me. Get out, Lily. When she didn't move fast enough, he shoved. Not hard, just enough. She stumbled out onto the pavement and the door slammed shut. The engine roared. The BMW fishtailed through the snow. Red taillights blurred and vanished. Gone. Lily stood in the empty lot, wind screaming, snow driving horizontal. Her skirt might as well have been made of paper. The cold wasn't gradual. It was instant, total, like being thrown into ice water. Her legs went numb in under a minute. Her arms erupted in goosebumps so severe they hurt. Her father had trained her for a lot of things. How to spot a tail, how to read a room for threats, how to throw a punch that would shatter a nose. But he'd never prepared her for this. Stranded in a blizzard, no phone, no keys, wearing nothing but school spirit and thin tights, because some rich kid couldn't handle rejection. She needed to move, find shelter. The school was locked. She'd heard the custodian set the alarm 10 minutes ago. The nearest gas station was 2 miles east. In this wind, in this cold, in this outfit, she'd never make it. Lily tried to find her phone, dropped to her knees, digging through the snow with hands that were already losing feeling. Nothing. The snow had swallowed everything. She didn't remember sitting down. One moment she was searching, the next she was huddled against the chain-link fence, arms wrapped around her knees, shivering so violently her jaw ached. Her thoughts started to slow, thick and heavy, like her brain was filling with syrup. She knew what that meant. Her father had told her about hypothermia, the stages, the confusion, the sleepiness that felt like peace, but was actually your body shutting down, organ by organ, surrendering to the cold. Her lips stopped shivering. That was worse. Shivering meant your body was fighting. When the shivering stopped, the fight was over. She was going to die here. In a school parking lot, in a cheerleading uniform, because a boy with a BMW and a bruised ego decided she needed to learn a lesson. Her father would burn this town to the ground, but she'd be too dead to see it. The snow kept falling, soft, almost gentle, like the world was tucking her in. Just close your eyes for a second. Just 1 second. You're so tired. Hey, hey, you okay? A voice, cutting through the white noise of the storm like a hand reaching through water. Lily looked up through frozen eyelashes. A figure stood over her, backlit by gray sky. Thin, shaking, wearing a jacket that had seen better decades and jeans with holes that weren't fashionable. You okay? Can you hear me? Ethan Cole, the quiet kid from English class, the one who sat in the back corner and never spoke, the one Chad's crew called Sparrow and threw things at, the invisible boy. He knelt beside her and his training kicked in. 2 summers volunteering at the community center's EMT program before his mother got sick and his life collapsed like a house built on sand. Her lips were blue, skin white, almost translucent, breathing rapid and shallow, pupils sluggish. Stage 2 hypothermia, maybe early stage 3. She needed warmth 5 minutes ago. What happened? Where's your coat? Chad took my phone, threw my keys, left me here. Rage hit Ethan so hard his vision blurred. White hot, primal. The kind of anger that came from knowing exactly what cruelty looked like because you'd been on the receiving end your whole life. He filed it away. Later. Right now, the girl was dying. Can you stand? He helped her up. She weighed nothing, or maybe the cold had made her feel that way. Her legs buckled immediately. He caught her, held her upright, but she was shutting down. Her body was conserving everything for her core, sacrificing her limbs to keep her heart beating. The nearest shelter was the bus stop on Maple and 4th, 2 blocks west. Covered roof, walls on 3 sides. Not warm, but out of the wind. He started walking, half carrying her, but after 10 feet he knew. She wasn't going to make it like this. The wind was stripping heat off her body faster than movement could generate it. She needed insulation. Now. Not in 2 blocks. Now. Ethan stopped walking. He looked down at his jacket. His mother's jacket. The one she'd bought with tip money and patched with her own dying hands. The one that smelled like her perfume if he buried his face in the collar and breathed deep enough. The one thing in the world that was still hers. Still his. The only thing between him and the storm. The math was brutal. Lily was smaller, already hypothermic. The cold had a 30-minute head start on her body. Ethan had more mass, had spent enough winters being cold and hungry that his body had learned to ration heat like a miser counting coins. He could survive the walk to the bus stop without the jacket. Maybe, probably not, but definitely yes, if the alternative was watching a girl die 10 feet in front of him while he stood there warm and useless. His mother's voice, "Promise me you'll be kind, even when the world isn't." Ethan unzipped the jacket. The zipper stuck at the broken tooth. He yanked it past, the way he did every single time, and shrugged the jacket off his shoulders. The cold hit him like a truck. Instant, devastating. His t-shirt, a faded gray thing with a band logo so cracked you couldn't read it, offered nothing. The wind went straight through the fabric, through his skin, into his bones. "What are you doing?" Lily's eyes went wide. "You need this more than me." He draped the jacket over her shoulders. It swallowed her. The sleeves hung past her hands. The hem reached her thighs. But it was warm, thick with down fill, built for Montana winters, and still holding his body heat. "No, you'll freeze." "I live close by." The lie came easy, smooth, like he'd been practicing it his whole life. 5 miles to the abandoned shop, in a blizzard, in a t-shirt. He didn't tell her that. "Come on, bus stop's 2 blocks, can you walk?" She nodded. The jacket was already working, color creeping back into her face, the violent shivering returning, which meant her body was fighting again. Fighting was good. Fighting meant alive. They walked. Ethan's arms wrapped around himself, but it was useless. The cold owned him now. His teeth chattered so hard he bit his tongue. Blood, warm for 1 second, then ice cold on his lip. 1 block. Lily leaned against him, drawing warmth he didn't have to give, but gave anyway. 2 blocks. The bus stop materialized through the snow like a mirage. Covered roof, 3 walls, bench. Beautiful. The most beautiful bus stop in the history of public transportation. Ethan lowered Lily onto the bench. She pulled the jacket tighter around herself, burying her face in the collar the same way he always did. "Don't fall asleep," he told her. His voice was shaking now, the words coming out in stuttered bursts. "Stay awake. Your dad. We need to call your dad." "My phone." "I know." Ethan looked around. There, across the street, a payphone, one of the last 3 in Pinewood. He'd used it before, back when he couldn't afford a cell and needed to call Sal about shifts. He crossed the street. The wind almost knocked him down. His fingers were so numb he couldn't feel the coins in his pocket. He fumbled, dropped a dime, watched it disappear into the snow, found a quarter, his last quarter, forced it into the slot with fingers that barely worked. "What's your dad's number?" Lily called it out. Ethan punched the numbers, misdialed twice because his fingers wouldn't obey. 1 ring, 2. "Yeah." The voice that answered made Ethan's blood run cold, and he didn't think he could get any colder. It was gravel poured over broken glass. A voice that had ended arguments and started wars. A voice that said, "I will destroy anything that threatens what I love." Hi, my name's Ethan Cole. I'm calling about your daughter, Lily. She's at the bus stop on Maple and 4th. Some kids from school left her stranded in the storm. She was hypothermic, but she's warming up now. She's safe." Silence. 1 second. 2. Ethan could hear the man breathing. Slow, controlled. The kind of breathing that meant rage being held on a leash. Who did this? Not what happened. Not is she okay. Who did this? Like the violence was already decided, just needed a name. "She can tell you. She's right here." He brought the phone to Lily. Her hands were shaking too hard to hold it, so Ethan held it to her ear. "Daddy?" Her voice cracked. Small. Young. The voice of a girl who'd been pretending to be tough for 2 years and had just run out of pretend. "I'm okay. Chad Morrison and his friends. They took my phone and left me in the parking lot. But this boy, Ethan, he found me. Daddy, he gave me his jacket, his only jacket, in a blizzard." A pause. Long. Heavy. Ethan could hear the faint sound of engines starting through the phone. Lots of engines. "He says to tell you something," Lily said, looking up at Ethan. "He says you just made the best decision of your life, even if you don't know it yet." Ethan had no idea what that meant. He was too cold to process it, too cold to do anything except stand there shaking, his arms wrapped around a body that was rapidly losing the ability to keep itself alive. "Your dad's coming?" he asked. "He's coming." "Good, good. Stay in the jacket. Don't take it off. If your core temp drops again, you'll crash harder the second time." "Ethan." Lily looked at him, really looked, past the ratty t-shirt and the frozen skin and the chattering teeth. "You're shaking worse than I was." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. Take your jacket back." "It's not my jacket anymore." He tried to smile. His face was too frozen to cooperate. "It's keeping you alive. That's what it was always supposed to do." "What does that mean?" "Nothing, just stay warm. Your dad will be here soon." He backed away. "Wait, where are you going?" "Home." "You said you live close by." "I do." "You're lying, I can tell." "Your dad's coming, Lily. You're safe now." "Ethan, thank you for letting me help." He turned into the storm, and the storm swallowed him whole. 1 block. The cold had moved past painful into something beyond pain. A numbness that felt like peace, which terrified the part of his brain that still remembered EMT training. Paradoxical warmth, the stage before your body gave up. 2 blocks. His arms had stopped shaking. Bad sign. Shivering meant fighting. No shivering meant surrender. 3 blocks. He couldn't feel his hands, couldn't feel his feet, couldn't feel anything except a strange, floating warmth that whispered, "Lie down, rest, sleep, you've earned it." 4 blocks. Was he even going the right direction? Street signs buried in white, everything the same, everything nothing. 5 blocks. He thought about his mother, about the jacket, about how she'd patched those elbows with hands already too thin to hold a needle, about the last thing she ever said to him. Be kind. He'd been kind. She'd be proud. 6 blocks. His legs stopped working, not gradually, all at once like someone had cut the strings. He hit the ground hard, landed in a snowdrift that should have hurt, but didn't. Soft, warm, comfortable. When had snow gotten comfortable? He should get up. Important to keep moving. Hypothermia victims who stopped moving died. He'd learned that in training. Simple fact. Simple math. But he was so tired, and the snow was so soft. And somewhere, a girl was wearing his mother's jacket and breathing and alive. And that meant something. That meant he'd kept his promise. Be kind. I was, Mom. I was kind. Ethan closed his eyes. The snow fell over him, gentle and relentless, covering the boy who gave everything to a stranger, because a dying woman had asked him to be good, and he was the kind of son who kept his word. The storm didn't care about promises. The storm just kept falling. And somewhere across town, 50 Hells Angels engines roared to life. Roman Gravedigger Graves hadn't prayed in 23 years. Not when he caught a bullet in Reno. Not when the feds kicked in his door at 4 in the morning. Not when his wife died giving birth to Lily, and he held a screaming baby in hands that had broken men's jaws. But he prayed now. Hands white-knuckling the handlebars of his Road King, engines screaming beneath him, 50 brothers in formation behind him, and Roman Graves prayed to a God he'd stopped believing in, that his daughter was still breathing. Bones. He didn't turn his head. Didn't need to. His VP was right where he always was, 2 feet off his left rear fender. Bones pulled alongside. Yeah, Prez. The boy on the phone, Ethan Cole. What do we know? Nothing yet. Want me to make calls? After. First we get Lily, then we find him. Then we find Chad Morrison. He said the name the way a man loads a gun. Mechanical, precise, already aimed. Bones nodded and dropped back into formation. Roman replayed the phone call in his head. The boy's voice, young, shaking, teeth chattering so hard the words came out in broken pieces, but steady underneath, calm in the way that mattered. He hadn't been panicked, hadn't been confused. He'd given the location, the situation, the medical status all in under 30 seconds. That was training. That was someone who knew how to function when the world was falling apart. And then Lily's voice. He gave me his jacket, Daddy. His only jacket. His only jacket, in a blizzard. Roman had known soldiers, warriors, men who'd bleed for their brothers without hesitation. He ran a club built on loyalty so fierce it was carved into their skin. But this, a kid, a stranger, giving away his only protection to save a girl he'd never spoken to, this was something else. This was pure. The formation turned onto Maple Street. Roman's eyes cut through the snow, searching, scanning. There, the bus stop. A small figure huddled on the bench, wrapped in something oversized and patchy. He was off the bike before it stopped rolling. Boots hit ice, and he crossed the distance in 4 strides. Daddy! Lily threw herself into him, and she was 5 years old again. Scraped knee on the playground, nightmare about monsters, running to the one person who made everything safe. Roman held her, felt her shaking, felt how cold she was even through the jacket, that ratty, beautiful, patched-together jacket that some kid had stripped off his own back. I'm here, baby. I'm here. I'm sorry, Daddy. I should have called you first. I should have. Stop. None of this is your fault. He pulled back, held her face in his hands. Her lips were still tinged blue. Her skin was ice, but her eyes were clear. She was alive. She was his. Tell me everything. Lily told him. Chad Morrison, the car, the parking lot, the phone thrown in the snow, the shove, the cold that ate through her uniform like acid. The moment she'd started to close her eyes and accept it. And then, Ethan. He just appeared, Dad, out of nowhere, like he materialized from the storm. He was already half frozen himself. You could see it. His lips were turning color. His hands were shaking. But he knelt down and started checking me like a paramedic, asking about my breathing, my temperature. He knew what he was doing. And then he gave you the jacket. I told him not to. I told him he'd freeze. He said he lived close by. Lily's eyes filled. He was lying. I know he was lying. Dad, the kids at school call him Sparrow. He sits alone every day, wears the same 3 shirts. I don't think he has anybody. Roman looked at the jacket wrapped around his daughter. Really looked. The mismatched patches, red plaid, blue plaid, sewn with stitches that were careful but clumsy. The work of hands that were determined but failing. A pocket stitched shut with dental floss. A zipper with broken teeth. Downfill leaking from a seam at the shoulder. This jacket had been someone's last act of love. He could feel it in the fabric the way he could feel history in a leather vest. Whoever had patched this coat wasn't just repairing a garment, they were building a shield, pouring everything they had left into keeping someone warm. And the boy who wore it had given it away without hesitation. Bones! His VP materialized. Get every prospect, every brother, every hangaround within 20 miles. We're searching for a kid, 16 years old, blonde hair, thin, last seen wearing a gray t-shirt, heading east on foot, 10, maybe 15 minutes ago. In this storm? In a t-shirt? Bones didn't need the math spelled out. His face went hard. On it, Prez. One more thing. Roman unzipped his own leather. The president's cut, 15 years of history, handmade patches that represented blood and brotherhood and everything he'd built. He draped it over Lily, over the boy's jacket, layering protection. Get on Mouse's bike. He'll take you home. What about Ethan? I'm going to find him. Dad, he's been out there in nothing for 15 minutes. In this, her voice cracked. If he dies because of me, he's not going to die. Roman said it with the same absolute certainty he used when he told the brothers a plan would work. The certainty that left no room for doubt because doubt was a luxury he couldn't afford. Promise me. I promise. He didn't know if he could keep that promise, but he'd die trying. Mouse, take my daughter home. Don't stop for anything. If she gets worse, take her straight to St. Mary's. Got it, Prez. Lily grabbed her father's arm. The industrial district, east side. There's an old auto repair shop, Jenkins Garage, I think, shut down years ago. I heard a rumor some kids squat there when it gets cold. If Ethan doesn't have a home... Roman kissed her forehead. Smart girl, go. He watched Mouse's bike disappear into the storm with his daughter, then turned to the remaining brothers. 47 men, engines idling, waiting. Listen up! His voice carried over the wind, over the engines, over everything. Roman Graves didn't need a microphone. He'd commanded rooms with a whisper and wars with a look. A 16-year-old kid saved my daughter's life tonight, took the coat off his back, walked away in a t-shirt in this blizzard. He's out there right now, dying, because he chose my daughter's life over his own. He let that settle. We find him. Every street, every alley, every doorway between here and the industrial district. Check dumpsters, doorways, bus stops, anywhere a body might collapse. And when you find him, you call me. You don't touch him rough. You don't scare him. You keep him warm and you call me. This kid is not a job. He's family. We clear? Clear, Prez. Then ride. The formation split like water around a rock. Pairs of bikes peeling off down every side street, every alley, headlights cutting through the snow. Roman took the main road east, throttle wide open, eyes scanning both sides of the street. 3 minutes in, Bones called. "Prez, check the first mile of route east." Nothing. Snow's covering tracks fast. "Keep looking." 4 minutes. Wrench called. "Gas station on 5th. Attendant says he saw a kid matching description pass by 7, 8 minutes ago. Heading east. Barely walking." Barely walking. 7 minutes ago. Roman's jaw clenched so tight his teeth ached. 5 minutes. Nothing. The brothers were calling in, one by one. Negative. 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 6 minutes. Roman turned onto Industrial Avenue. Abandoned factories loomed on both sides, dark and dead. The kind of place where people went when they'd run out of everywhere else. He knew these streets. The club did charity runs here every Thanksgiving. Blankets, food, warm clothes for the homeless who sheltered in the empty buildings. He'd never once considered that a 16-year-old high school student might be among them. His phone buzzed. Mouse, but not about Lily. "Prez, got him. Alley behind the old Morrison Metalworks plant. He's down. Repeat, he's down, not moving." Roman's blood went cold. Actually cold, like the storm had reached inside him. 3 blocks east of your position, Mouse added. "Hurry, President, he looks bad." Roman covered those 3 blocks faster than he'd ever ridden in his life. He jumped the curb, rode the sidewalk, didn't care about ice or traction or the laws of physics. The alley was narrow and dark, and his headlight illuminated it like a spotlight on a stage. There, against a dumpster, a shape that barely looked human. Curled on his side in a snowdrift, blonde hair frosted white, arms limp, skin the color of candle wax. Roman was off the bike and on his knees in the slush before the engine stopped turning. He pressed his fingers to the boy's neck. For 3 seconds that lasted 3 lifetimes, he felt nothing. Then, a pulse. Faint, slow, a heartbeat that was barely a suggestion, like someone tapping on a door they weren't sure anyone would answer. "He's alive." Roman's voice was rough. "Barely. Get him up. Careful. Don't move his hands. They're frostbitten." Bones and Mouse lifted Ethan between them. The boy's head lolled back. His lips were the color of a bruise. His t-shirt was frozen to his skin, literally frozen, stiff with ice. His fingertips were white and waxy, and he weighed nothing. Roman could see it in how easily they lifted him. This kid was running on empty long before tonight. "Hospital, now." Roman stripped his flannel shirt, the one under his cut, and wrapped it around Ethan's torso. 2 other brothers did the same. Within seconds, the boy was buried under layers of leather and flannel in body heat. "Rookie, ride ahead to St. Mary's. Tell the ER we're incoming with severe hypothermia. Core temp's going to be somewhere around 88, 89. Tell them Roman Graves is covering everything. Insurance, bills, room, everything. If anyone says one word about paperwork, they can take it up with my lawyer. Move." The prospect was gone before Roman finished the sentence. They loaded Ethan into Bones' sidecar. Roman rode beside them. His eyes never left the boy's face. Halfway to the hospital, Ethan's eyes fluttered open. Barely, just slits of confused blue. Hey, kid, you're okay, you're safe." "Lily?" The whisper was so faint Roman almost missed it. "She's safe. You saved her. She's warm and safe." "Good." A ghost of a smile. Then his eyes closed again. Roman Graves had not cried since his wife's funeral. 17 years. He'd taken bullets, taken beatings, taken prison, dry-eyed through all of it. He blinked hard now, blamed the wind. They reached St. Mary's in 8 minutes. The prospect had done his job. A full trauma team met them at the emergency entrance. Ethan was on a gurney and through the doors before the brothers finished parking. Roman followed. A nurse tried to stop him. "Sir, family only." I'm his family. Something in his face ended the argument. He stood in the hallway while they worked, heard the medical shorthand through the door. Core temp 88.4, severe peripheral frostbite, dehydration, malnutrition. That last word hit him like a fist. Malnutrition. A kid in America going to school every day, starving. Bones appeared at his shoulder, quiet, waiting. Talk to me, Roman said. Made some calls. Ethan Cole, 16. Mother died 14 months ago, cancer. Stepfather kicked him out 3 months after the funeral. No other family, no foster placement. Kid fell through every crack in the system. Where's he been living? Back office of Jenkins' old garage on 8th. Busted couch, sleeping bag, space heater that runs off a rigged electrical line. Bones paused. He's been washing dishes at Sal's diner, same place his mom used to waitress. Cash under the table. Enough for ramen and the electric bill. That's it. Roman closed his eyes. The jacket, Bones continued. His mother bought it, patched it herself during her last weeks. It's the only thing he has left of her, and he gave it to a stranger. Not a stranger, Roman opened his eyes. My daughter. He didn't know that. Exactly. Roman pressed his palm flat against the wall. That's exactly the point. He didn't know who she was, didn't know there'd be a reward or a rescue. He just saw a girl freezing and gave up the one thing keeping him alive. Because it was the right thing to do. What are you thinking, Prez? I'm thinking this kid hasn't had a single person looking out for him in 14 months. I'm thinking he's been invisible. To his school, to the system, to everyone. And I'm thinking that changes tonight. Bones studied his president's face. He'd ridden with Roman for 22 years. Through wars, through prison, through the worst things men could do to each other. He knew every expression Roman Graves had. This one was new. This wasn't rage, wasn't strategy. This was something Bones had only seen once before, the day the nurses put baby Lily in Roman's arms. What do you need? Call Marcus Henderson, best family lawyer in Montana. Get him on the phone tonight. I want to know every legal option for taking custody of a minor with no living guardian. Done. Call the school, Pinewood High. I want Chad Morrison's full name, address, and his father's name by morning. Done. And Bones, find that jacket. The kid's going to want it when he wakes up. Already got it, Prez. It's in my saddlebag. Roman nodded. His phone buzzed. Lily. Is he alive? He's alive, baby. Doctors are working on him. How bad? Roman looked through the window, watched the nurses layering heated blankets over a boy who was thinner than any 16-year-old should be. A boy whose medical chart would probably show years of neglect written in his bones. He's tough, Lily. He'll make it. Dad, his jacket, don't let anything happen to his jacket. It's safe. Dad? Yeah, baby. I've been going to school with him for 2 years. I've watched Chad's crew throw things at him, call him names, trip him in the hallways, and I never did anything. Not once. Roman closed his eyes. I walk past him every single day, and tonight he saved my life. Lily, don't tell me it's not my fault. I know it's not my fault the way Chad treated me, but Ethan, that is on me. That's on all of us. 17 years old, her mother's conscience, her father's fire. We're going to make it right, Roman said quietly. Promise? On my patch. He hung up and turned to find the doctor stepping out. Young woman, tired eyes. She looked at the wall of leather-clad bikers filling her hallway and managed not to flinch. Mr. Graves? How is he? His core temperature was 88.4 on arrival. We're doing active rewarming. The frostbite on his fingers is concerning but treatable. He should keep all his digits. She paused, looked at her chart. Mr. Graves, this boy is severely underweight. His blood work shows chronic malnutrition. There are older injuries, healed fractures consistent with untreated accidents. His medical history is essentially non-existent. No doctor visits in over a year. He's been living alone, on the street. That's consistent with what I'm seeing. He's also physically exhausted. His body was running on reserves that were already empty. She looked at Roman. Frankly, even without tonight's hypothermia, this boy was in medical crisis. Another few weeks of this, and we'd be looking at organ damage. Roman's hands curled at his sides. 14 months. This kid had been drowning for 14 months, and not a single person in this town had reached down to pull him up. Can I see him? He's sleeping, real sleep. His body is recovering. He'll be out for hours. She hesitated. Mr. Graves, I'm required to contact Child Protective Services when I see. Already handled. My lawyer is on his way. Whatever paperwork, whatever process, we're doing it right. That kid is not going back to an empty building. The doctor studied him. Whatever she saw in his face must have been enough, because she nodded and stepped aside. Roman walked into the room, pulled the chair to Ethan's bedside, sat down. The monitors beeped softly. The heated blankets hummed. The boy's chest rose and fell in the slow rhythm of someone who hadn't slept safely in a very long time. Roman reached into his cut and pulled out his phone. Opened the photo Bones had sent. The jacket, carefully laid out on a table at the clubhouse. Patches and dental floss and broken zipper and all. He stared at it for a long time. Then he settled into the chair, crossed his arms, and stood guard over the boy who'd saved his daughter, the way a father would, the way someone should have been doing all along. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, for the first time in 14 months, Ethan Cole was warm. Ethan woke up to a sound he didn't recognize. Silence. Real silence. Not the threatening kind that filled the abandoned garage at 3 in the morning, when every creak might be someone breaking in. This was the silence of safety. Warm air, soft sheets, a steady beeping that meant someone was monitoring whether he lived or died, and that alone was so foreign it made his chest ache. He opened his eyes. White ceiling, private room, an IV dripping clear fluid into his arm. His fingers were bandaged, thick white gauze that made his hands look like mittens. Then he turned his head and every muscle in his body locked. A man sat in the chair beside his bed. Massive, bald, tattoos crawling up his neck like dark vines. A leather vest with patches that Ethan couldn't read from this angle, but didn't need to. He knew what a 1%er looked like. Every kid in Montana did. The man was watching him the way a wolf watches a rabbit, except there was no hunger in it, just focus. Absolute, unblinking focus. Morning, kid. Ethan's hand shot to his chest. Hospital gown. No jacket. My jacket. Where's my... Safe. Bones has it. Not a thread out of place. The relief hit so hard Ethan's eyes burned. He blinked it away. Crying in front of strangers was a luxury he'd trained himself out of. Who are you? Name's Graves. Roman Graves. You saved my daughter yesterday. Yesterday. The parking lot. Lily, blue lips and frozen skin, and his mother's jacket wrapped around a stranger's shoulders. It came back in fragments, like a dream he couldn't quite hold. Is she okay? Graves tilted his head, studied the boy like he was solving a puzzle. You nearly died last night. Core temp of 88. Frostbite on 6 fingers. Doctors said another 10 minutes and we'd be planning a funeral. And the first thing you ask is whether she's okay. Is she? She's fine, home, warm, worried about you. Graves leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Now let me ask you something, Ethan Cole. What the hell were you thinking? She was freezing. I had a jacket. Wasn't complicated. Wasn't complicated. Graves shook his head slowly. You gave away your only coat. In a blizzard. Then walked 5 miles in a t-shirt toward an abandoned building you've been squatting in for 3 months. The words landed like punches. Ethan's face went white. How do you know about... I know everything. The garage, the couch, the sleeping bag, Sal's diner, cash under the table, ramen for dinner 6 nights a week. Your mother dying 14 months ago. Your stepfather throwing you out like garbage. Graves' voice didn't change. Same low, controlled rumble. But something behind his eyes burned. I know that you've been invisible for over a year, and not a single person in this town lifted a finger. Ethan stared at the ceiling. His jaw worked. He would not cry in front of this man. He would not. I don't need pity. Good, because I don't do pity. Graves stood up. He was even bigger standing, 6'2", maybe 6'3", with shoulders that blocked the light. I do debts. You saved my daughter. That's a debt, and I pay my debts. You don't owe me anything. I just gave her a jacket. You gave her your life, kid. You just got lucky we found you before the bill came due. The door opened. Lily walked in carrying a paper bag and 2 coffees, and Ethan felt something crack inside his chest. She was wearing his jacket, his mother's jacket, patches and dental floss and broken zipper and all. She wore it like it was the most valuable thing she'd ever owned. Hey, she smiled, and it was so genuine, so completely free of the performative kindness Ethan had learned to recognize and distrust, that he didn't know what to do with it. Brought you breakfast, real breakfast, not vending machine garbage. You didn't have to. Pancakes, bacon, scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice, and a chocolate muffin, because I didn't know what you liked, so I got everything. She set the bag on his bed. Eat. You look like a strong wind could knock you over. I should give you back the jacket, Ethan said, staring at it. Dad says it's bad luck to return a life-saving jacket before the person who gave it is fully recovered. Lily said it with a straight face. Ethan looked at Graves. Made that up, Graves admitted. Sounded good though, right? And despite everything, the hospital bed, the bandaged hands, the fact that his entire secret life had been exposed to a man who could probably kill him with a phone call, Ethan laughed. It hurt. His ribs ached and the monitors beeped faster, and his eyes watered. But it was real. The first real laugh in 14 months. Keep it, he told Lily. Looks better on you. It has patches from 3 different flannel shirts and a pocket sewn shut with dental floss. Exactly. High fashion. Lily laughed. Graves didn't laugh, but something in his face shifted, softened, like a door opening 1 inch. Eat your breakfast, kid, then we talk. Ethan ate, all of it. Every pancake, every strip of bacon, every crumb of muffin. He ate like someone who hadn't had a real meal in weeks, because he hadn't. Lily watched him with eyes that got progressively shinier, and when she finally had to turn away and pretend to look at her phone, Ethan pretended not to notice. Okay, Graves pulled his chair closer. Here's what's going to happen. I can take care of myself. Shut up and listen. Not harsh, but absolute. The voice of a man who gave orders that were followed, always, by everyone. You're not going back to that garage. You're not sleeping on a broken couch in a condemned building. You're coming to my house. Mr. Graves, I've got 8 bedrooms. 8. My daughter and rattle around that place like 2 marbles in a bucket. One of those rooms is now yours. I'm not a charity case. Damn right you're not. You're the kid who saved my daughter's life. That makes you family. Graves held his gaze. And family doesn't sleep in abandoned buildings. Non-negotiable. Ethan shook his head. The walls he'd built, the ones that kept him functioning, kept him moving, kept him alive through 14 months of nothing, those walls were cracking. And behind them was something terrifying. Hope. The most dangerous thing in the world for a kid who'd learned that hope was just a setup for a harder fall. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you held a dying girl's life in your hands and didn't hesitate. I know your mother raised a kid who'd give his last coat to a stranger. I know you've been surviving on nothing for over a year without breaking, without stealing, without quitting. Graves' voice dropped lower. That tells me more about who you are than most people show me in a lifetime. What if I'm not who you think I am? Kid, I've spent 30 years reading people. It's why I'm still alive. You're exactly who I think you are. Lily sat on the edge of the bed. Ethan, please, just try. If you hate it, you can leave. But at least eat some real food and sleep in a real bed for one night. One night, Ethan said quietly. One night, Lily agreed. Graves said nothing, but the look he gave Bones through the doorway said something very different. Something that meant, get that bedroom ready because this kid isn't leaving. 2 hours later, the doctor signed the discharge papers. Ethan walked out of St. Mary's on legs that still felt unsteady, wearing borrowed clothes that were 2 sizes too big. Bones's spare flannel, a prospect's jeans, boots from someone named Wrench that were almost the right size. And then he stopped dead. The parking lot was full of motorcycles. Not 5 or 10, dozens. Massive Harleys lined up in perfect rows, chrome catching the weak winter sunlight. And beside them, men. Big men. Tattooed men. Men who looked like they'd been forged in a furnace and tempered in a bar fight. They were all looking at him. Ethan's survival instincts screamed, run, hide, disappear. This was too many eyes, too much attention. Attention meant danger. Every day of the last 14 months had taught him that. Easy, kid. Graves's hand landed on his shoulder, heavy, warm, steady. They're here for you. Why? Because you're one of us now, whether you know it yet or not. Bones stepped forward. In his hands, Ethan's jacket, folded carefully, almost reverently, like a flag at a military funeral. Kept it warm for you, kid, every patch in place. Ethan took the jacket, held it against his chest, pressed his face into the collar and breathed. Faint, almost gone, but there. His mother's perfume, vanilla and something floral. The smell of being loved. His shoulders shook. Once, he locked it down hard. Thank you, he said. His voice didn't break. Almost, but not quite. Don't thank me, Bones said. Thank your mom. She made one hell of a jacket. The ride to Graves' house took 20 minutes. Ethan rode behind Graves on the Road King, arms wrapped around the man's midsection, his mother's jacket pressed between them. 50 motorcycles in formation behind them. The whole town watched through their windows as the Hells Angels rolled through Pinewood with a skinny blonde kid on the back of the president's bike. Ethan had never been on a motorcycle. The vibration, the speed, the wind, it should have been terrifying. But sitting behind a man who felt like a wall between him and the world, surrounded by an army that had searched through a blizzard to find him, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt since his mother was alive. Protected. That night, in a bedroom bigger than the entire back office of the garage, with sheets that smelled like laundry detergent instead of motor oil, Ethan Cole slept for 11 hours straight. No nightmares, no 3 a.m. panic attacks, no waking up shivering because the space heater had died again. He just slept. Like a kid. Like someone who knew the doors were locked and the people inside them gave a damn. The next morning, Monday, Roman Graves woke up at 5, made coffee, and sat at his kitchen table with a legal pad. He wrote 2 names, Ethan Cole, Chad Morrison. Under Ethan's name, he wrote custody, school records, medical care, college fund. Under Chad's name, he wrote one word, consequences. By 6, he'd made 4 phone calls. Marcus Henderson, family attorney, Detective Rick Paulson, a friend of the club who worked the juvenile division, Principal Watkins at Pinewood High, and a man named Jerry Morrison, Chad's father, family law attorney, big office downtown, contributor to every charity that put his name on a plaque. The call to Jerry Morrison was short. Jerry, Roman Graves. Silence. The kind of silence that meant a man's blood pressure had just spiked 40 points. Roman, what can I do for you? Your boy left my daughter in a parking lot during a blizzard on Friday, took her phone, threw her keys in the snow, drove away while she was wearing a cheerleader uniform in sub-zero temperatures. I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. Jerry. One word. Spoken softly. The softness was the warning. Don't do that. Don't insult me. We both know what happened. The only question is how we handle it. What do you want? Your son apologizes, publicly, in front of the school. He writes a check covering Lily's medical expenses, and he does 100 hours community service at the homeless shelter. Roman paused. That's the civilized option. And the uncivilized option? You don't want to know the uncivilized option, Jerry. Trust me on that. Another silence, then. I'll talk to Chad. You'll do more than talk. You'll deliver him to Pinewood High on Monday morning with his apology written and his checkbook open. 10 a.m. That's today. Yes, it is. Roman hung up, drank his coffee. At 7, Ethan shuffled into the kitchen, still wearing the borrowed clothes, hair sticking up in every direction. He looked younger in the morning light, younger and fragile and completely lost. Coffee? Roman asked, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Yeah, thanks. Eggs? You don't have to cook for me. Kid, I'm going to say this once. Stop telling me what I don't have to do. I know what I don't have to do. I'm doing it because I want to. Eggs or pancakes? Eggs, please. Roman cooked. Ethan sat at the kitchen island and watched a Hells Angels president scramble eggs in butter toast and pour orange juice. The domesticity of it was so jarring, so completely at odds with every assumption he'd ever made about men who looked like Roman Graves, that Ethan didn't know where to put it. We're going to your school today, Roman said, sliding the plate across. Ethan's fork stopped. Why? Because there's a conversation that needs to happen. Several conversations. Roman sat across from him. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I don't trust anyone. I know. I'm asking you to start. Lily came downstairs, still wearing his jacket. She'd slept in it. Ethan could tell by the creases. She grabbed a piece of toast off his plate like she'd been stealing food from him her whole life. Ready for today? She asked. Nobody told me what today is. Lily looked at her father. Roman looked at his coffee. Today, Roman said slowly, is the day Pinewood High learns what happens when you hurt the people I care about. I'm not one of the people you... Ethan. Lily grabbed his wrist. Her hand was small and warm and insistent. Stop arguing. You are. Deal with it. At 9:45, 50 motorcycles pulled into the front lot of Pinewood High School. The sound alone stopped every conversation in every classroom. A low rumble that built and built until the walls vibrated, until the windows buzzed, until teachers trailed off mid-sentence and students rushed to look. Ethan sat behind Graves on the Road King, his mother's jacket on, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his teeth. I don't want to go in there. I know. Everyone's going to stare. Yes. I've spent 2 years making sure nobody looks at me. And look where it got you. A broken couch in an abandoned building. Graves killed the engine. Time to be visible, kid. They walked through the front doors. Roman first, Ethan behind him, Bones and 6 brothers flanking. The hallway cleared like someone had pulled a fire alarm. Students pressed against lockers. Teachers froze in doorways. The hall monitor, Mr. Peterson, ex-Marine, 6'4", took nonsense from absolutely no one, stepped forward. Sir, you can't. Roman looked at him. Just looked. The way a lion looks at a dog that's barking too loud. Mr. Peterson stepped aside. Principal Watkins came running from his office, tie askew, coffee sloshing. Excuse me, you can't just walk into... I'm Roman Graves. I called you at 6 this morning. We have a 10 o'clock meeting. Watkins stopped. His face went through 5 colors in 3 seconds. Mr. Graves, I really think we should discuss this in my office. No, we discuss it right here. Roman turned to the hallway. Students were pouring out of classrooms now, drawn by the engines and the leather and the sheer gravitational pull of something extraordinary happening in a place where nothing ever did. Roman reached into his jacket and pulled out Ethan's mother's coat. He'd asked Ethan for it in the parking lot. Ethan had handed it over without understanding why. Now Roman held it up. Hi. like evidence in a courtroom. This jacket saved my daughter's life on Friday. She was stranded in your parking lot during a blizzard, left there by one of your students, hypothermic, dying. And while your school was locked up and your staff was gone, a 16-year-old boy took this coat off his own back, his only coat in a blizzard, and gave it to a girl he'd never spoken to. The hallway was silent. 200 students, not one breath. That boy has been a student at this school for 2 years. He sits alone. He eats alone. He gets bullied every single day by kids who think poverty is entertainment. Your teachers watch it happen. Your administration ignores it. Roman's eyes swept the crowd like a searchlight, and the one person in this building who showed any courage, any decency, any basic human goodness was the kid you all call Sparrow. He turned, found Ethan pressed against the wall behind the brothers, trying to disappear, trying to be invisible one last time. "Come here, kid." Ethan shook his head. "Ethan, come here." Something in the voice, not a command exactly, an invitation wrapped in steel. The voice of a man who was asking, but who also wasn't going to take no for an answer, because sometimes the people who needed saving the most fought hardest against the hand reaching down to pull them up. Ethan stepped forward. Every eye in the hallway locked onto him. The boy they'd ignored, the boy they'd mocked, the boy who'd been drowning in plain sight for 14 months while they looked the other way. "Whose jacket is this?" Roman held it toward him. "It's mine." His voice was barely audible. Louder. "It's mine." Stronger now, something building behind his ribs. "Your mother made this jacket for you. She bought it, patched it herself, during her last good week." His voice cracked. He let it. "It was the last thing she ever gave me." Roman nodded. Then he draped the jacket over Ethan's shoulders, gently, the way you'd place a medal on a soldier. And then he did something that made 200 students gasp in unison. He took off his own vest, the president's cut. 15 years of patches, handmade leather worth $3,000, and a legacy worth more than money could measure. He settled it over Ethan's jacket, over his mother's patches, over the dental floss and the broken zipper and the love stitched into every seam. "This boy is under my protection. Anyone who touches him answers to me. Anyone who messes with him answers to every man standing behind me. And anyone who ever calls him Sparrow again as an insult will learn exactly what it means to have the Hell's Angels on your back." His eyes found Chad Morrison in the crowd, third row, pale as milk, shaking. "Morrison, front and center." Chad didn't move. His legs had stopped working. The 2 football players beside him stepped away like he was radioactive. "Now, Chad." Chad walked forward on legs made of water. Every step echoed in the silence. He stopped 6 feet from Graves and looked like a boy who just realized that the world was bigger and harder and more consequential than he'd ever imagined. "You know why I'm here?" "Yes, sir," barely a whisper. "Then talk, and make it real, because I'll know the difference." Chad turned to Lily, who stood beside Ethan. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Lily, I'm sorry. What I did was, there's no excuse. I left you there because you embarrassed me, and I wanted to hurt you. That's the truth. I wanted you to suffer, and I didn't care what happened." Lily said nothing, just watched him. Chad turned to Ethan. This was harder. You could see it, the wall of entitlement crumbling brick by brick, and behind it something raw and ugly and honest. "Ethan, I've been terrible to you. For 2 years. Not just me, but I let it. I made it cool to treat you like you were nothing. I called you names. I threw stuff at you. I made your life hell because it was easy and it made me feel big." His voice broke. "And then you saved her life. After everything, you just saved her. I don't understand that. I don't know how to be that person." "You don't have to understand it," Ethan said quietly. "You just have to stop being the other kind." The hallway erupted. Not in cheers, in something deeper, a murmur that built, a collective exhale. 200 students watching a boy they'd overlooked become the most important person in the room. Roman turned to Watkins. "We done here?" The principal nodded rapidly. "One more thing." Roman addressed the crowd one final time. "This school has a kid living in an abandoned building, washing dishes for ramen money, wearing the same 3 shirts, and nobody noticed, nobody asked, nobody cared." He let the silence burn. "That's not his failure, that's yours. Every single one of you. Do better." He put his hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Ready to go, kid?" Ethan looked around the hallway, at the faces that had ignored him, the teachers who'd let it happen, the walls that had witnessed 2 years of cruelty and done nothing. Then he looked at Graves, at the brothers behind him, at the jacket on his shoulders, both jackets, his mother's love and a new family's protection, layered together like armor. "Yeah," Ethan said. "I'm ready." They walked out together. The brothers formed an honor guard. The whole school watched through the windows as Ethan Cole climbed onto the back of Roman Graves' Road King and held on tight. 50 engines fired, 50 bikes rolled, and the boy who'd been invisible for 2 years rode away surrounded by thunder. Behind them, in the hallway, Sarah Martinez started clapping. Slow at first, then faster, then louder, and one by one, student by student, the hallway joined until the sound filled the whole building. An ovation for the boy who gave everything and asked for nothing, echoing off the walls long after the motorcycles were gone. The applause was still ringing in Ethan's ears when they pulled into Graves' driveway, but the sound that replaced it was worse. Silence. The kind that filled your head when the adrenaline drained and left nothing but the raw truth of what just happened. 200 people had seen him, knew his name, knew he was homeless, knew about the jacket, the garage, the ramen. Every secret he'd spent 14 months building walls around, gone in 10 minutes. He sat on the back of the Road King for a full 30 seconds after Graves killed the engine. Didn't move. Couldn't. "Kid, I can't go back there, to that school, not after everyone saw, everyone knows." "Good." "Good? They know I'm homeless. They know I've been sleeping in a garage. They know everything." Graves swung off the bike and turned to face him. "And what exactly did you lose by them knowing?" Ethan opened his mouth, closed it. "You lost nothing, Ethan. You had nothing to lose. You were invisible. You were starving. You were one bad night away from dying. The secret wasn't protecting you. It was killing you." Ethan's hands gripped his knees. His mother's jacket was still warm on his shoulders, Graves' vest still layered over it. He felt like 2 different people occupying the same body, the invisible boy and whoever he was becoming. "I don't know how to do this," he said quietly. "Do what?" "Be seen." Graves put his hand on Ethan's shoulder, didn't squeeze, just held it there, steady, like an anchor dropped into still water. "You learn, same way you learn to survive, one day at a time." They walked inside. Lily was at the kitchen table with her laptop open, and the look she gave Ethan when he came through the door was so fierce, pride mixed with something protective and almost angry, that he had to look away. "The whole school is talking about you. Sarah Martinez posted a video. It already has 40,000 views." "Great," Ethan muttered. "Exactly what I wanted, to be a viral homeless kid." "That's not what they're saying." Lily turned the laptop toward him. "Read the comments." He didn't want to, but she pushed the screen closer, and his eyes caught fragments against his will. "That kid is braver than anyone I know. The way he just stood there and owned it. He gave his dead mom's jacket to a stranger. Who does that? Give Ethan everything. He deserves the world." Ethan pushed the laptop back. "They felt sorry for me. That's not the same as caring." "Maybe, but it's a start." "Lily," Graves' voice from the kitchen. "Let him breathe." She raised her hands in surrender, and stole a piece of toast off the plate Graves was already preparing. Ethan watched the routine, the casual theft of food, the father who pretended to be annoyed but made extra because he knew she'd take it. The rhythm of a family so natural they didn't even think about it. It hurt to watch. Not because it was bad, because it was everything he'd lost. "Eat," Graves said, putting a full plate in front of him. "Then we talk about logistics." Logistics? School, legal stuff, your living situation. Graves sat down across from him. "I had my lawyer file emergency guardianship papers this morning. Judge Richards owes me a favor. Long story, don't ask. He'll sign off by end of week. Until then, you're here as an emergency placement. CPS has been notified. They're not going to fight it." Ethan's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "You filed for guardianship?" "Temporary, for now. We'll figure out permanent later." "You can't just... I'm not your kid." "You're not anybody's kid. That's the problem." No cruelty in it, just fact. Delivered the way Graves delivered everything. Straight, clean, no filler. Your stepfather abandoned you. The state failed you. The school ignored you. Somebody has to step up. I'm stepping up. Why? Because my daughter is alive because of you. Because you're 16 and alone, and that's wrong. Because I have the means, the space, and the will. Graves held his gaze. And because your mother raised a kid worth fighting for. I'm honoring her. Don't make it complicated. Ethan set the fork down. His hands were shaking. Not from cold this time. From something deeper. Something tectonic shifting inside him. Plates of grief and loneliness in survival grinding against something new. Something terrifying. My mom would have liked you, he said. The words surprised him. They surprised Graves too. The big man blinked, and for just a second, the armor cracked. Yeah? She was a waitress at Sal's, the same diner where I washed dishes. She used to say the toughest-looking customers were always the best tippers. Ethan almost smiled. She would have taken one look at you and brought you extra pie. Graves' jaw tightened. He picked up his coffee, drank it, took a moment. I would have eaten it, he said finally, every bite. The first week was the hardest, not because Graves or Lily made it hard, the opposite. They made it easy, and that was the problem. Ethan didn't know what to do with easy. His entire operating system was built for hard, for scanning rooms, calculating threats, rationing everything from food to words to trust. Easy felt like a trap. He woke up every morning at 4:30, the same time the cold in the garage used to drive him from sleep, and lay there listening to a house that hummed with warmth and safety, waiting for the catch, the moment the door would open and someone would tell him to leave. It didn't come. On Tuesday, Graves took him to Dr. Mara, a family physician who treated the club's members for years. The examination was thorough and brutal in its findings. He's 23 pounds underweight for his height and age, Mara told Graves in the hallway, speaking quietly but not quietly enough. Ethan heard every word through the door. Chronic malnutrition, vitamin D deficiency, 2 previously fractured ribs that healed without treatment. His growth plates show delayed development consistent with prolonged nutritional stress. In English, Doc. In English? This boy has been starving for over a year, and his body is showing the damage. The good news is he's young. With proper nutrition and rest, he'll recover. But Roman, somebody should have caught this. A teacher, a counselor, a doctor, somebody. Ethan heard Graves' fist hit the wall. Just once, controlled, but the sound said everything. On Wednesday, Ethan went back to school. Graves offered to drive him. Ethan said no. Then Graves offered to have Bones follow at a distance. Ethan said, absolutely not. I have to do this part myself. I know, Graves said. Doesn't mean I have to like it. He walked through the front doors of Pinewood High, expecting stares, whispers, cruelty. He got stares and whispers, but the cruelty had shifted. It was no longer aimed at him. Chad Morrison sat alone in the cafeteria. His usual crew, the football players, the hangers-on, had scattered like birds from a gunshot. The viral video had done its work. The whole school had watched Chad's apology, had seen the terror in his face, had done the math on who had power now and who didn't. But it was Sarah Martinez who surprised Ethan the most. She found him at his locker, same corner, same invisible spot, and stood there until he noticed her. "I owe you an apology," she said. "For what?" "For 2 years of walking past you like you didn't exist. For laughing when Chad's crew threw stuff at you. For never once asking if you were okay." Her eyes were wet. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I should have been better." "You didn't know." "I didn't try to know. That's worse." She walked away before he could respond. But at lunch, she sat at his empty table, the one in the back corner where nobody ever sat. She put her tray down across from him like it was the most natural thing in the world. "This seat taken?" "It's never been taken." "It is now." By Thursday, 3 more kids had joined. By Friday, the table was full. The invisible boy had become magnetic, not because of the Hells Angels, not because of the viral video, but because the truth of who he was had been laid bare. And the truth turned out to be something people wanted to be near. Ethan didn't trust it. He told Graves that over dinner. Real dinner, chicken and rice and vegetables, enough food to make his stomach ache with the unfamiliarity of being full. "They'll forget. Give it 2 weeks. Something else will happen and I'll go back to being nobody." "Maybe," Graves said. "Does it matter?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, does it matter if they forget? You've got a roof, food, people who give a damn. If the whole school goes back to ignoring you tomorrow, does that change anything about this table right now?" Ethan looked at the table. At Lily doing homework with one hand and eating with the other. At Graves reading something on his phone with a concentrated frown that meant club business. At the plate of food in front of him that he didn't have to calculate the cost of. "No," he said. "I guess it doesn't." "Then stop worrying about them. Worry about your grades, your health, your future. Let me worry about everything else. You can't fight all my battles. Watch me." Lily looked up from her homework. "He's not kidding. He literally will. I once had a bad interaction with a cashier at Target, and Dad sent Bones to have a conversation. That cashier was rude to you." "She gave me the wrong change, Dad, by a nickel." "Rudeness starts small." Ethan laughed, a real laugh, the second one in this house. They were getting easier. On Saturday, Graves took Ethan to the garage. Not the abandoned one where he'd been squatting, the club's garage, a massive shop where the brothers rebuilt bikes and worked on cars and argued about engine specs with the passion of theologians debating scripture. "You said you washed dishes. What else can you do?" "I can fix things, small stuff, engines, electrical, whatever. My mom's car broke down all the time and mechanics were expensive, so I learned from YouTube videos." Graves pointed to a Sportster in the corner, half disassembled, parts scattered like puzzle pieces. "That bike's been sitting there for 6 months. Nobody wants to deal with it. Transmission's shot, electrical's a mess. If you can get it running, it's yours." Ethan stared at him. "You're giving me a motorcycle?" "I'm giving you a project. The motorcycle is what happens if you finish it." Graves tossed him a wrench. "Earn it." Ethan caught the wrench, looked at the bike, looked at Graves. "You're testing me." "Damn right I am. I'm testing whether you stick with something when it's hard and nobody's watching. Whether you finish what you start." Graves crossed his arms. "You want to be part of this family, you earn your place. Not because I'll kick you out if you don't, because you won't respect yourself if it comes free." My mom used to say the same thing. Different words, same idea. Smart woman, your mom. Ethan walked over to the Sportster, ran his hand along the tank, felt the potential under the grime and neglect. "I'll have it running in 3 months. I'll hold you to that." The weeks turned into something Ethan had never experienced, routine that didn't hurt. He woke up in a warm bed, ate breakfast that Graves cooked every morning without fail. Eggs, toast, coffee, the same simple menu that became a ritual, a rhythm, a proof of permanence. Went to school where things were complicated but no longer hostile. Came home to a house that smelled like food and sounded like people. Lily became the sister he'd never had. She dragged him to movies he didn't want to see and made him listen to music he pretended to hate and helped him with English homework by arguing about every interpretation until they were both laughing too hard to write. She still wore his mother's jacket sometimes, over her own coat, always over, never instead of. And Ethan never told her that seeing it on someone who was alive and laughing made the grief easier to carry. The brothers adopted him one by one. Mouse, who turned out to have an engineering degree from Montana State, started helping with his math homework. Wrench, the road captain, taught him to cook. Basic stuff first, eggs and rice, then slowly more complex things, until Ethan could make a chicken parmesan that Graves declared, "Not terrible," which from me is a Michelin star. Bones, gruff and monosyllabic with everyone else, took to calling Ethan kid in a voice that was somehow warmer than his actual name. But it was the nights that mattered most. Roman Graves, president of the Hells Angels, feared across 4 states, a man whose name made grown men flinch, sat with Ethan on the porch every night after dinner. They didn't always talk. Sometimes they just sat there, watching the Montana sky turn from blue to black, sharing a silence that felt like conversation. But some nights, Ethan talked. About his mother, about the cancer, about watching her disappear 1 pound at a time while she pretended everything was fine. About the day she died, when the hospice nurse had to physically remove his hands from hers because he wouldn't let go. About Dale, the stepfather who packed his life in a garbage bag. About the garage, the cold, the hunger, the loneliness that ate at him like an animal gnawing through rope. Graves listened, never interrupted, never offered advice or platitudes or any of the empty words adults usually deployed when they didn't know what to say. He just sat there, solid and present, a wall between Ethan and the darkness. One night, 3 months in, maybe 4, Ethan asked the question he'd been holding since the hospital. Why me? What do you mean? You help people. The club does charity stuff. I've seen it. Thanksgiving turkeys, toy drives, all that. But this is different. You took me into your home. You're fighting for legal custody. You show up to my school meetings. You cook me breakfast. His voice wavered. Why me? What's special about me? Graves was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was different, lower, stripped of the command, the authority, the president, just a man. 20 years ago, I was you. Ethan went still. Different details, same story. My old man was a drunk. My mom split when I was 12. I was sleeping in cars by 14, fighting in parking lots by 15. Joined the club at 17 because they were the first people who ever gave a damn whether I woke up in the morning. He rubbed his jaw. Somebody saved me, Ethan. A man named Duke, old president, been dead 10 years now. He didn't have to. I was just another angry kid with nothing. But he saw something, pulled me in, gave me a reason to keep going. So you're paying it forward. I'm paying it back. There's a difference. Graves looked at him. Duke told me something the night he patched me in. Said the measure of a man isn't what he takes. It's what he gives when he's got nothing left to give. Sound familiar? Ethan's mother's voice. Be kind, even when the world isn't. Yeah, he whispered. It does. You already passed that test, kid. That night in the parking lot when you had nothing, no home, no money, no future, and you gave away the one thing keeping you alive. You passed the test most people never even get asked to take. I wasn't trying to pass anything. She was cold. I know, that's why it counted. They sat in silence. The sky was enormous above them, scattered with stars that didn't care about debts or tests or the strange alchemy that turned a boy's worst night into his best chance. Ethan, yeah? You asked why you. Here's the real answer. Graves turned to face him fully. Because the night I found you in that alley, half dead in the snow, I saw something I recognized. A kid who'd rather die than let someone else suffer. A kid who'd been broken by the world and still chose to be good. His voice cracked, just barely, just enough. I saw myself. If Duke hadn't found me, if nobody had reached down, and you reached down, and I reached down, because that's what we do. That's what this club is. We're not saints. We're not good men by most people's standards, but we protect our own. And you're our own now. Ethan looked at the stars, at the house behind him, at the man beside him who'd pulled him from a snowdrift and given him a family and asked nothing in return except that he eat breakfast and go to school and finish the damn Sportster. I'm going to make you proud, Ethan said. Not a promise to Graves, a promise to his mother, to Duke, to the jacket that had started everything. You already have, kid. Graves stood up, clapped him on the shoulder. Now get inside, it's cold, and Lily's making hot chocolate, and if we're late she puts too much cinnamon and ruins the whole thing. Ethan stood up, followed Graves inside. The door closed behind them, warm air rushing out to meet the cold. And for the first time since his mother died, Ethan Cole walked into a house and knew, not hoped, not wished, not pretended, knew that he belonged there. In the kitchen, Lily was indeed ruining the hot chocolate with cinnamon. Bones was at the table, cleaning his glasses with a cloth and pretending he hadn't been listening through the window. Mouse was arguing with Wrench about whether the Sportster needed a new clutch cable or just a rebuild. Family, strange, loud, tattooed, terrifying to outsiders, but family. Ethan sat down among them and let himself be home. 3 years changed everything and nothing. Ethan Cole stood in front of the mirror in his bedroom, the one with the blue walls Lily had insisted on painting because beige is for people who've given up on joy, and barely recognized the person staring back. 19 years old, 23 pounds heavier than the skeleton who'd collapsed in a snowdrift behind Morrison Metalworks. His blonde hair was cut properly, not with gas station scissors, not by his own shaking hands, but by Rosa at the barber shop on Main, who called him Mijo and refused to let him pay. His shoulders had filled out, his jaw had squared. The hollows under his cheekbones had been replaced by the architecture of a young man who ate 3 meals a day, every day, without doing math first. But it was his eyes that had changed the most. The hunted look, that constant scanning, that flinch readiness, that expectation of the next blow, was gone. In its place was something steady, something that looked like the beginning of peace. His leather vest hung on the chair behind him. His own vest, earned through 3 years of prospecting, washing bikes, running errands, proving himself in 100 small ways that added up to one big truth. Hell's Angels across the back. And on the front, where a member's road name went, a single word stitched in white thread, Sparrow. Lily had fought him on it. You can't take their insult and wear it on your chest. It's not their insult anymore. It's my name. I'm taking it back. She'd stared at him. Then she designed the custom patch herself, a sparrow in flight, wings spread, carrying a tiny jacket in its talons. She'd stayed up 3 nights hand-stitching it. When she presented it to him at the clubhouse, Bones had to leave the room because he was allergic to something in the air. Nobody mentioned that the air was fine. You clean up nice, Sparrow. Lily leaned against his doorframe. 19 now, pre-law at the University of Montana, already arguing with professors who'd been practicing before she was born. She still wore his mother's jacket sometimes, over her own clothes, always over, the patches and dental floss and broken zipper preserved like holy relics. Still feels weird, Ethan admitted, adjusting the vest. Like I'm wearing someone else's life. You're not. You built this life, piece by piece, like that stupid Sportster that took you 5 months instead of 3. Transmission was more damaged than I thought. Excuses, excuses, she grinned. Dad's waiting downstairs. Big day. Big day. The words landed with weight. Today was the club's annual family barbecue, and this year, for the first time, Ethan wasn't attending as a guest or a prospect. He was walking in as a full patch member, voted in unanimously the night before, in a ceremony that involved Graves reading his name aloud and 47 men pounding the table in approval. Ethan had not cried. He'd come close, dangerously, embarrassingly close, but he'd held it together until he got back to his room and buried his face in his mother's jacket and let the sobs come in waves that shook his whole body. She should have been here. She should have seen this. He touched the jacket now, hanging in a glass frame on his wall. Graves had it preserved, professionally mounted, museum quality, the patches and stitching and dental floss all visible, all honored. A brass plate at the bottom read, Catherine Cole's jacket, a mother's love, a son's courage, the coat that changed everything. Mom, Ethan said quietly, I'm okay. I made it. The fabric didn't answer. It didn't need to. He could feel her anyway. Downstairs, Graves was doing what Graves always did before a barbecue, pretending he wasn't nervous about the brisket. Internal temp? 192, Wrench reported from the kitchen. Needs another hour. It needed another hour an hour ago. If it dries out, I'm blaming you. You blame me every year. The brisket is always perfect. The brisket is always adequate. There's a difference. Ethan walked in and Graves looked up. The expression that crossed the big man's face was quick. He buried it fast, the way he buried everything that might be mistaken for softness, but Ethan caught it. Pride. Raw, unmistakable, incandescent pride. Vest looks good on you. Feels heavy. It should. That weight means something. Graves poured 2 coffees, the morning ritual that hadn't changed in 3 years. Not once, not even when Graves had the flu and could barely stand. Coffee, kitchen table, 2 mugs, every single morning. You ready for today? It's a barbecue, not a war. In this family, those are the same thing. Have you seen bones near a grill? Man thinks charcoal is a suggestion. They drank their coffee. The comfortable silence that had become their language. A silence built on 3 years of porch conversations, in midnight talks, and the slow accumulation of trust between a man who'd pulled a boy from the snow and the boy who'd let himself be saved. Ethan. Yeah? Your mom would be proud of you. I need you to know that. Ethan's hand tightened on the mug. You never say stuff like that. I'm saying it now. She raised a kid who survived the worst thing a person can survive, being alone. And you came out of it still good, still kind, still the boy who'd give his jacket to a stranger. Graves cleared his throat. That's her legacy. Don't ever forget it. I won't. Good. Now help me carry the coolers. Bones threw out his back again and he's useless. I heard that, Bones hollered from the living room. You were meant to. The barbecue was chaos. Beautiful, deafening, overwhelming chaos. 50 members in their families, kids running everywhere, music too loud, laughter louder. The clubhouse yard had been transformed into what Lily called a biker family reunion directed by someone with no concept of volume control. Ethan moved through it differently than he would have 3 years ago. Not hugging the walls, not calculating exits, not fading into the background. He shook hands, accepted backslaps, laughed at jokes that were terrible and perfect. Mouse challenged him to a burger-eating contest. Wrench argued about the Sportster's carburetor. A prospect named Tommy asked him, with genuine nervousness, what it took to earn a full patch. Show up, Ethan told him. Every day, especially the hard days, especially when nobody's watching. That's it? That's everything. Graves' father Marcus rolled up in his wheelchair, 83 years old, eyes still sharp enough to cut you at 20 paces. He'd been the club's president before Roman, and before him, his father. 3 generations of Graves' men. Now, in a way that blood couldn't explain but love could, a 4th. The Coat Kid. Marcus gripped Ethan's hand with surprising strength. Full patch now. Heard about the vote. Unanimous. You know the last time we had a unanimous vote? No, sir. Me neither, because it's never happened. Marcus wheeled closer. My grandson told me what you did that night. Gave your dying mother's jacket to a girl you'd never met. In a blizzard. Wearing nothing. Boy, I've been in this club 61 years. I've seen brave men do brave things. But what you did wasn't brave. Ethan blinked. It wasn't? Brave is when you're scared and you do it anyway. What you did was something else. You didn't even think about it. You just did it. Like breathing. Like your heart beating. Marcus tapped his own chest. That's not courage, son. That's character. You can teach courage. You can't teach character. You either have it or you don't. My mom taught me. Then your mom was the best teacher who ever lived. And don't you ever let anyone tell you different. Later by the bonfire, Graves found Ethan sitting alone. Not hiding, just breathing, taking it in. The firelight, the laughter, the weight of the vest on his shoulders that still felt new and permanent at the same time. You doing okay, kid? I keep waiting for it to end, for you to tell me what you really want, for the catch. 3 years and you're still waiting for the catch. 14 months of nothing does that to a person. Graves sat down beside him. The fire cracked and popped between them. No catch, Ethan. No angle. No debt. This is just what it is. He gestured at the yard, the brothers, the families, the kids chasing each other through the smoke. This is yours. Same as it's mine. Same as it's Lily's. You earned it. By giving away a jacket. By being the kind of person who gives away a jacket. Graves looked at him sideways. You know what I see when I look at you? A broke college student who still can't cook rice properly? I see the man your mother was building. She didn't finish. She ran out of time. But she laid the foundation so deep and so strong that everything we've added, the room, the food, the club, all of it, it's just walls on her foundation. Graves's voice dropped. I didn't save you, Ethan. She did. She saved you the day she bought that jacket. I just found you in time. Ethan's vision blurred. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand and didn't apologize for it. Thank you, he said, for finding me, for all of it. Don't thank me. Just keep being who you are. That's payment enough for 10 lifetimes. The cake was massive, chocolate with vanilla frosting, because Lily had remembered a conversation from 2 years ago when Ethan mentioned his mother used to make chocolate cake on his birthday. Welcome home, Sparrow, in blue icing. The brothers sang happy birthday even though it wasn't his birthday. Close enough, Lily argued. We missed the first 16. We're making up for it. And they sang so badly, so joyfully off-key, that Ethan laughed until his ribs hurt, and the tears on his cheeks could have been from either emotion, and nobody asked which. Lily hugged him. Bones clapped his shoulder so hard he stumbled. Mouse started a chant. Sparrow, Sparrow, Sparrow! And 47 voices picked it up until it became thunder, until it shook the air, until the word that had once been a weapon became an anthem. Ethan stood in the middle of his family and let himself be loved. Fully, without calculation, without fear, without the math that had governed his every waking moment for 14 months of survival. Simple math, he thought, the simplest there is. The day of Chad Morrison's sentencing, DUI, probation violation from the original incident, 6 months in county, Ethan rode to the courthouse on his Sportster, the bike he'd rebuilt piece by piece in Graves's garage, transmission and electrical and every stubborn bolt, until it purred like something alive and willing. Lily rode behind him, arms around his waist, his mother's jacket over her leather. Chad looked different, smaller. 3 years of consequences had ground him down the way gravity grinds mountains, slowly, invisibly, completely. The crew was gone. The BMW was gone. The Letterman jacket was gone. Everything that had made Chad Morrison king of Pinewood High had been stripped away, and what remained was just a 20-year-old kid who'd made a terrible choice and spent 3 years learning what that cost. He caught them in the courthouse hallway after the hearing. Ethan saw him coming and didn't tense, didn't flinch, didn't calculate an exit. "Ethan, Lily!" Chad's voice was stripped of everything it used to carry. The arrogance, the entitlement, the assumption that the world existed to serve him. "I need to say something." "Then say it." "I'm sorry. I know I apologized at the school. I know I did the community service and the check and all of it. But that was because your father made me. This is because I need to." He swallowed hard. "What I did to Lily, leaving her in that parking lot, it was evil. I can call it a mistake, but it wasn't. A mistake is forgetting your homework. What I did was a choice, a cruel, deliberate choice." Lily said nothing, just listened. "And you, Ethan, 2 years of hell I put you through, calling you names, throwing stuff, making sure you knew every single day that you didn't matter." Chad's eyes were wet. "And then you saved her. After everything I did, you took off your coat and you saved the girl I tried to kill. You didn't try to kill her. I left her in a blizzard in a cheerleading uniform. What would you call it?" Ethan considered this. "I'd call it the worst decision of your life." "It was. And your decision was the best one of mine. Because watching you, watching what you did, what it cost you, what you were willing to give, it broke something in me. The part that thought I could take whatever I wanted and never pay for it." Chad wiped his face. "You were right. That day at school, when I apologized and you said I didn't have to understand it, I just had to stop being the other kind of person. I've been trying. 3 years. I'm still trying." Ethan looked at the boy who had once been his tormentor, saw the wreckage, saw the effort underneath it, genuine, imperfect, ongoing. "Apology accepted," Ethan said. Lily's head snapped toward him. Even Chad looked stunned. 3 years ago, I said, noted. Today I'm saying, accepted." Ethan held Chad's gaze. "Not because you deserve it, because I'm done carrying it. You were the worst part of my old life. I'm not giving you space in the new one." Chad nodded. His lip trembled. He turned and walked back into the courtroom, and Ethan watched him go with something that wasn't forgiveness exactly, but was close enough. Release. The setting down of a weight he hadn't realized he'd been carrying. They walked out of the courthouse into sunlight. Lily grabbed his arm. "You forgave him." "I let him go. Different thing. Your mom would be proud." "My mom would say I took too long." Lily laughed, punched his shoulder. "Ice cream? You're always buying. Because I'm rich and you're a broke college student. Economics, Sparrow. Simple math." They walked toward the bikes, Ethan's Sportster gleaming in the sun beside Lily's Honda. She'd refused a Harley on principle. "I'm going to law school, not a biker rally." And the sight of them parked side by side, 2 machines as different as the people who rode them, made Ethan smile. "Lily, yeah? Thank you for wearing the jacket." She looked down at it, the patches, the dental floss, the broken zipper she'd learned to yank past the stuck tooth the same way Ethan always had. 3 years of wearing it, and it fit her now. Not in size, it would always be too big, but in the way that mattered. "I'll wear it forever," she said, "until the last stitch falls apart." "My mom would have loved you." "I know, you've told me, about 100 times. 101. She hugged him, quick, fierce, the way siblings do, the way people do when they've chosen each other and the choice is permanent. Ethan started his bike. The engine caught on the first try. It always did now, after 5 months of rebuilding and 2 years of maintenance, and the kind of stubborn devotion that turned a junkyard project into something that purred. He looked back at the courthouse, at the past, at the boy he'd been, 16, alone, invisible, calculating whether he could survive one more night on a broken couch in an abandoned building. Then he looked forward, at the road, at Lily already pulling ahead, laughing, waving for him to keep up. At the life waiting at home. Graves in the kitchen, bones at the table, Mouse arguing about carburetors, Wrench burning something on the stove. Family. Imperfect, loud, leather-clad, terrifying to outsiders. And his. Ethan Cole, Sparrow, twisted the throttle and rode toward home. Behind him, the courthouse held Chad Morrison and his consequences. Ahead of him, the road stretched open and endless, and full of the kind of future that a dying woman had dreamed for her son when she patched the elbows of a second-hand jacket with hands that were already fading. She'd sewn love into every stitch, and that love had saved 2 lives, her son's and a stranger's, on the coldest night Pinewood had ever seen. Ethan rode faster. The wind hit his face and it felt like freedom. Some math is simple. A girl is freezing. You have a coat. You give it to her. You walk into the storm with nothing. And sometimes, not always, not often, but sometimes, the storm gives you back more than it takes. That is the truth of Ethan Cole. A boy who had nothing, gave everything, and found out that the world, for all its cruelty, still has room for the kind of goodness a mother stitches into a jacket with her last good hands. He never stopped being kind. He never broke his promise, and he was never invisible again.